You. Hi, be hairless minx of the blue sea. It's me. We back. Chapter 1000 in Kobe Bryant, man. Kobe Jelly Bean Bryant, man. 1024. Nobody important. The irony is afoot. What's up, y'all? How y'all doing, man? We getting right into it. Y'all already know how crazy this chapter was, and I got a lot to talk about. So, let's have at the. We get right off the bat with the troll stuff, bringing up Conquerors hockey, and you see our boy Goldie, who's super talking about people fainting in front of him. You know what I mean? Like it's only natural for men with what do you say weak resolve to crumble before me. Like oh here we go. All the Usapu fanboys are gonna be on the Conquerors hockey foreshadow for that one, right? Because we know about Usopp and his lies being based off half truths and that whole situation. Usopp is hilarious to me, man. Like to me, in my opinion, he's way more funnier than Buggy. Like Buggy is cool, but Usopp is probably like one of the funniest characters in the series to me, man. Especially because he be serious. That's what to me makes me be serious, man. Even when he's trolling, he's serious. That's my guy, man. Shout out to Sir Village. But even claiming like, oh yeah, I took out two of Toby Ropo. I'm Usuhachi the Beast Tamer now. I'm like, okay. I wonder if that's the name of a person who's existed. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised. It's probably not important yet, but it was just cool. Speed comes right back and was like telling us basically like, yeah, I feel bad for trying to give y'all that fake out a few chapters ago. Actually, two times, the Conquerors hockey fake out with Zoro situation. I'm not gonna do this again with you guys with Usopp. Like, oh, that's just Big Mom. Like a lot of statements I say that sound so crazy. And he's like, it's just Big Mom, man. And Speed knows it's Big Mom. Why I don't know. I guess she's just putting two and two together, and then after being around Kaido, it's not she doesn't know what Conquerors is in the first place. But I wonder how she knows it's Big Mom's exactly. Like I didn't really think about it, but I wonder if Conquerors like if you know the person, you can tell when it's their Conquerors hockey going off as opposed to somebody else's. I never really thought about that, but maybe that's the thing. I don't know, but it does tell us that whatever situation is going down with Big Mamu, Law, and Kid, the intensity of that fight must have ramped up to make her use Conquerors because she didn't just do that out of nowhere. And since I have to take that as obviously always support the biz with the translations. I have to take that as she's not damaged, so it's not like a Mother Caramel. She's screaming. I think it's just like shockwaves more in a sense. They use the word echo, but I think that's probably what they're talking about with that. I just thought it was something to note because we know what happened with our boy Hawkins, right? Basil Hawkins of the Psychic Friends Network and his tarot cards that he'll read to you for $1.99 a minute if you remember those commercials. um, we know his situation on using Kid as a doll, right, as one of his dolls. So it has an impact on the Killer and Hawkins fight, which also has an impact on how Law and Kid can strategize against Big Mom. And I do think Law understands what's going on because he knows this ability already. But yeah, I just wanted to bring that up. Then we have Nami asking Frankie about Luffy. Frankie's like, yo, no news is good news. The last thing I heard was basically the last thing you heard with him and Momo. So let's just keep it pushing because we got people trying to run in on the fight with Sanji and Zoro and King and Queen, and they can't be distracted. So let's do some, let's keep the bums at bay, right? Let's mop up all the scrubs, keep them nice and tidy in the corner somewhere, knocked out, and not in the way of the greats, right? We got the Sanbai of the Santoryu. And then we probably got the future, he's going to be going from Black Leg Sanji to maybe Black Fire Leg Sanji or something like that. A little, a little Amaterasu feats, huh? You like that pun, don't you? Right? I'm just messing with y'all. But we did see Law's terrible crew actually doing something for once. We seen Beppo, Sachi, and Penguin fighting some scrubs. and making the same type of jokes that Law make, right? Don't order me around. We're equals. Not really, but we are. At least Law actually isn't equal. The rest of his crew is absolutely horrendous, and I feel bad for him. Now we get the other panel with right after it, right? And I do like how it's flowing with the locations. I know we get that from time to time, but usually it's at the beginning of a chapter with a map or something like that, of what's going on. But I like this way too. Um, we get that panel, and I just remember thinking, I just made me think about Cypher Pole because we had the giraffe, and a wolf, right? Kaku and Jabra. That's just where my mind went. Obviously, it's not them, and there's plenty of mink and smile for users, right? So we see some of the same creatures throughout this arc, right? As far as like gators and bears and monkeys and stuff like that. But that's just what I thought about, right? Which actually does coincide to what me thinking about Cypher Pole to begin with, because we get Brooke carrying Robin, who's fainted. Now, Bao Huang's cyber bird robot thing, whatever those are, her pets that she uses for surveillance, they saw the end of that fight. They also knew Jinbei was fighting Who's Who, so that leaves Who's Who free to be intercepted, so to speak, right? Because that's what Cypherpole stated that's one of the reasons. They say that's the reason why they're there, but I still think that's not the only reason, right? Even if they don't quote unquote care who wins this war, yeah, y'all know I've been bringing it up. You know, there's no way they just overlook Robin if they have the opportunity, and I just don't think out of all the fights that we saw, the only two that was really shown that one of the robots were there watching the fight out of the Flying Six was Black Maria, who was fighting Robin. So they had interest in that for a reason. And then Who's Who, which supposedly that's why they're there. The odds of all three of the Cypher Pole, the Derby hat dude, the Udahari Kisuke hat guy, and the Dr. Seuss mask Cypher Pole guy, there's no way all three of them stay in that room. At least one of them is leaving that room very soon for Who's Who in the background of what's going on. So let's not forget about them, because that's going to come into play, right? And Jinbei, Brooke called Jinbei next. There we go. We're playing the telephone game today, boys. Brooke called Jinbei next, and basically Jinbei is on the same floor with Kids Pirates. Um, I don't know if it's a design thing or it just happens to look like that. Maybe it's a coincidence because everything's on fire. But and I didn't at the time I was reading the chapter, I couldn't remember what heat looked like off the top of my head. I remember what wire looked like, but I didn't remember what heat looked like. And I'm like, wait a minute, can heat use fire? You know what I mean? Like, however you can use fire, who cares? I'm not even gonna start that conversation again with the Lunarians and stuff like that. I was talking a lot about that yesterday, but it looked like he was shooting fire at that pig, like, as a joke. Maybe he's roasting a pig. I don't know. Maybe it's just a background thing and I'm overthinking things. I did notice that, though. I did see it. And it was, who else was there? We cut to the next part with our boy Kapamatsu, as I like to call him. And like half of this chapter basically is damage control of the bums and the scrubs and the fodder. Nobody of importance from the bad guy side was a part of any of notice what I was talking about right now, right? With the exception of me bringing up Who's Who being defeated, right? And Robin being fainted. That situation, which poor Robin, still don't know if that was armament or not. Like I said, for her to be knocked out, that must have took a lot out of her. And I don't know, but that's a discussion we had before, so I don't need to talk about that again. Now we live at Onigashima with my man. Oh man, what clap Kaido, man, because it's one and you're done, son. We've been waiting for this for how many chapters? Ever since we learned Yamato existed. We knew this was gonna happen, and we finally starting off with the flashback. I automatically am very excited because of how many things got touched on in small. Like, this whole chapter could have been about this to me, honestly. Like, the other part is cool, and we do need the updates so we can understand the pace and space of what's going on in the war. But this right here, this characterization and this what it does for the future, you know, we needed this right here. And we're finally getting it, man. And Kaido versus Yamato. Yamato comes in swinging, right? With the ringing arrow, the move she used against the Hachi, I think, one of the numbers in that chapter with Frankie. Because remember, I was talking about how, like, I was impressed on how this attack worked in the first place because her feet are not on the ground. And if you play baseball, you understand like that's your power has to do with being able to stand on the ground firmly. So her doing that midair, I just knew she was beastly. And I've been saying she was strong from jump. Y'all already know I've been on that. I know I'm not the only one, but y'all know I've been on that for a minute. You're Kaido's child and you grew up taking beatings. I even talked about how I thought the cuff thing was trash because durability in armor and hockey probably would be her proficiency. And then, especially when we learn later, she knows Ryo. Like, come on, man. Like, the cuff thing was a joke to me. The symbolism of it was nice, but the cuss ever damaging Yamato was like, dude, this is not Sparrow, and Pedro. You know, and these cuffs can't be on the same level as Pell, right? Even if they were. There's no way you're telling me Pell is more durable than Yamato. So that was the only gripe I ever had with Yamato was that. And something that she finally cleared up in this chapter a bit more, talking about what she actually wants to do besides Wano. At least the implication of that. And that's what I was looking for from her, from the characters. Besides Odin's will and what she wants to do with that, which y'all already know, I've been saying I have no issue with that, but she still needed her own thing. And this sounds like she does have her own thing because she talks about wanting to get stronger. But we'll get into that later. Kaido easily deflects her ring and arrow. And I liked how he was swipe left, man. We don't want those. and went a 90-degree angle, but the next panel made it confusing because when he did his Thunderous arrow, it looked very Dragon Ball esque because I swear he just shot it out of his hand or something, and his club was in his right hand. So I'm not sure what happened. Maybe that the anime will fill in more on because they have been doing that with the fights, giving us more on actually what's going on. I didn't know what was going on with that. It just threw me off, and how he can just do that. And Yamato got sent to the ground or into a wall. I couldn't tell which one. I just know she got put through some rocks. And when Yamato gets up, she says, "Hey, look, are you trying to kill me? You're really trying to kill me." And y'all know I've joked about this before, but the despair of Kaido has really only applied to the people of Wano. It hasn't applied to the Alliance as much. And what would be more impactful is if he killed Yamato, like right, and Luffy saw it. I've talked about that before. Not because I wanted her to die. You know, sometimes like the stronger Yamato looked, to me, it almost lowered the chances of her being on the crew. Although I understand after a while there'll be some sort of power creep, right? Because we'll be dealing with the world government and admirals and other Yonko crews, so it might not be as overpowering to begin with, right? And seeing her go toe to toe with Kaido, it's impressive, and I think people are gonna overvalue Yamato's strength, but we also have to remember it's a familiarity thing. Kaido's been beating up Yamato her whole life. So she's seen all of his attacks by now, more than likely. There's not too much she hasn't seen. And she knows what it feels like. She knows how he fights. And even in this fight, even though Kaido says, "Yeah, I'm trying to kill you. This is war. This is not just some family squabble." To me, that's cap. Because he hasn't speed blistered once. Yet. And right here, he's just guarding and counterattacking. He's not on the offensive. Even though he can overpower her, we just seen from Thunderous Arrow, he can overpower her anytime he wants to. But because of how he is about stuff, he's not. And he doesn't respect her as an equal, even though he's telling her this is war and I'm going to kill you. He had all her whole life to kill her, and he hasn't. So it's just like Kaido he's very, very complex in a sense, like with this situation. So I don't believe him because the way he went after some of the supernova when it was in rupees compared to how he's fighting her is two different. It's two different things. When he got smacked with Red Rock, when he got up from that, he wasn't on playtime mode for a little bit. So it's just like Yamato doesn't do enough damage. Like I'm saying, like it looks impressive because she's enduring what's going on. But at the same time, Kaido's not on the offensive, so you can't really, it makes her. I like it because you understand where Yamato is coming from a power standpoint. But I just don't think we need to overvalue it just based on how Kaido is fighting this fight right now, because he's just not putting it, as King and Queen said last chapter, Kaido's not putting his back into this fight yet. He's not. You can't tell me he's putting his back into it the same way even when he wasn't at Hyper Form fighting Big Mom. He put more effort into this when he speed blitzed Luffy and one clapped it. He put more effort into that than what he's doing right now. And I don't know if that's for a reason, or he's just being lazy, or does he just enjoy psychologically trying to torture her? Because that does seem to be a part of his thing when it comes to will breaking. Is he has no problems going after your psyche, and he doesn't have to call you names or do any of that. He just says very subtle things like he did in this chapter, because you want to keep calling yourself Odin. All right, you can be Odin, man. You can have that. That's cool with me. I'm still gonna do what I do. That's why I like Kaido, because he's true to his scumbagginess. At least he's consistent. Now he's trash because he's a trash parent, and I just not with that. You know what I mean? If you're gonna be a trash parent, don't be one in the first place. And he's doing what he's doing to Yamato is almost worse than what Sanji was going through. But it's that level to me, right? Because we see in a flashback, right? One, we get confirmed that she has conquerors, which no surprise to me. You know what I mean? Like, just look at her. Like, look at what she's done. Look at what she went through. Like, not to necessarily say that always dictates whether you have conquerors or not, but it wouldn't be like if Kobe's had conquerors hockey out of nowhere, you'd be like, what? You know what I mean? But with Yamato, you're like, yeah, that makes sense to me, right? So hers, she found out early in life, and where I thought they was going with this was I knew he wasn't going to feed her the fruit because he never had any intent on that. As soon as that chapter came out, that hasn't been in play for me. As far as with the flashback and how she consumed her fruit, saying that she was hungry. And then they introduced her in the flashback as being in a situation where she was starving, right? And then, for me, I just talked about this the other day in One Piece Tripping Through Time, shameless plug, episode 2, volume 2, I forgot what I called it. But, that's the Sanji backstory with Zeph and the theme of hunger. And we see how devastating hunger is in real life. It's not even something to joke about. You know what I mean? It's one of the worst ways to die is out there. Possible, just because of how long it takes for one and your mental state and things like that. And he's doing this to a child and without thinking twice about it. That's why I like it, because this is real pirate stuff right here. The treachery part and how far you'll go to prove a point. And like I said, I had brought up before, like maybe he would kill her. Why take 20 something years to kill your own child if you knew you were going to do it anyway? Like, for what purpose? Just hoping that they would do what you want them to do? It's just like Kaido has that part in him where he's stubborn. Like, I will break her real. Because it's like I said, if he wanted to kill her, he could have done it already. So, and even finding out she has conquerors, he's just like, oh, that's cool. But she's still old enough, so I don't really care. Like, Guy was hilarious, man. Like, that's cool. You got conquerors. That's cool. And like I said, I thought she'd end up eating a devil fruit, like one that was down there or something. And I'm glad that's not how it happened. So clearly it happens later. And Kaido didn't want her to have it, but we still don't find out the character that he initially wanted to give that fruit to because of what he went through to get it. And he basically says, if you're going to be Odin, you're probably better off dead, homie. So I'm going to send you down in this cave. I'll give you a month to cool off. Reevaluate your situation. I'm sure you'll come to the conclusion that it's time and you need to serve me. That's basically his mentality. Like, Kaido's very consistent in his arrogance. I do appreciate that. Like, and it's not the same way like with Blackbeard. You know what I mean? It's a different kind of arrogance. Like, his arrogance hasn't led to mistakes yet. You know what I mean? So like, coming from him, it's just like, man, this dude is something else, man. So, but I'm glad I was wrong about how that was going as far as how she got her devil fruit, because she did say she was hungry when she ate it. So Kaido wanted what he called, and Kaido is one to put respect on people's name. You know what I mean? That's not something he doesn't. If you're great, you're great. And he says basically, you're Wano's greatest swordsman. These three swordsmen that are down there, that in that cave that he threw Yamato into and basically chained her to the wall, like some kind of, I don't know, some kind of creature, basically. Not even not even his kid. It's some rando. This is something you do to somebody who owes you money, or killed a family member or something. But the swordsmen, we see them, right? He wants them to serve him, and this is the basis of his crew, right? He'd rather break you than kill you if he has to, because honestly, in a way, he's kind of like Gecko Moria, where he wants a bunch of people doing his bidding for him, stuff that he doesn't want to do, not because he can't, because he's not strong enough. He just that's not where the way he wants to spend his time. So he's just like, oh, I'll just get stronger people. I don't need a bunch of people conquerors though. He's already said that before. But he called them one of those great master swordsmen. So he's already putting respect on their name. And then he basically said, you guys can leave whenever you want. You just got to serve me to do it. And he even tried to use hunger as a leverage, which that's just some evil dictator. Like, you guys know the history of human beings. Food has been a leverage forever. So um, he threw the small food in there and basically wanted them to fight to the death over it. Kind of like some bloody Ninja of the Mist situation. And hey, whoever comes out is the strongest, and that's what I want anyway. So I need you guys to take care of business. Get to killing each other and treachery. But and as he's walking away, she's just crying like, they're gonna kill me. I'm your child. You killed Odin. They're gonna kill. They resent me for being here. They resent me for existing. So she's very insightful about the situation that she's in, and just the world in general. I'm impressed by her level of insight, which is a very contrast to what you think of her because of the whole Odin thing and not understanding identity and stuff like that. But as lately with her development, you can see that she actually understands that she's more than Odin, and I like that they're now focused. That's being focused on, because that's all I was looking for. That was my biggest gripe. Your only mission in life can't be to complete somebody else's mission. Like, I can't say that. That's not what I don't mean it like that. But it just seems like in the story, the way that it's been written, if that was her only goal, it just doesn't feel like, to me personally, I just never felt like it was enough and that she needed something else. I've said this before in previous videos about Yamato when it comes to joining the crew or just in general. Um, and if now in this chapter, though, it sounds like there's something else there. So now I'm really excited more on Yamato's development, understanding that there will be more depth to her, and this isn't just like a stronger version of a damsel in distress. Like, that's not what's going on here, and I can appreciate that. Just as a whole, having female characters will resolve being in the series, and not just as a gag or anything else, just a strong female character, and that's what the series needs in the first place. That's not a straw hat, right? That's a different situation. I'm talking about from a world building aspect. We basically only have Bo and Big Mom, and that's it. And, we have people like the Don, but that's not a common character in the series who shows up a lot. So the impact has only been there a couple of times, like the Aesop or Luffy flashback. You know what I mean? It's not, in the Bow we get every now and again. Yamato, depending on her survival, if she survives, she'll be a pivotal part of the story for the entire series. So we'll have one more person to add, for as far as a different perspective on how the world they perceive it and how the world perceives them. And Yamato even brings up acceptance in this chapter, right? So it's just like, yes, this is what I wanted from Yamato. Thank you, Yamato. I was waiting on, man. But anyway, these swordsmen, right? I don't know. This looks like Shusui. I don't want to assume, but man, that design looks very much like Shusui, right? So after they leave, Kaido leaves. They cut the chains and feed Yamato, man. Samurai don't get hungry, dog. We don't get down like that. They're very honorable adults, right? They're not gonna sit here and eat in front of a starving kid. Like, what kind of clown you gotta be to do some nonsense like that? You know what I mean? I might be starving to death, but I just can't go out like that. Gee, that's worse than getting scars on my back. You know what I mean? You took food from a kid and you just sat there. Yeah, you're Orochi level now. Yeah, you know what I mean? But I like that a lot. And the first samurai, he looked like he should be Dendro's pops or something. You know what I mean? Just the shape of his head, and he got that face. Like, remember when Dendro was aging? He looks like Dendro. He could be Dendro's pops, but I liked how insightful Yamato was about this whole situation in general at a young age to be able to pick up on it that and not idolize your parent just because that's your parent, right? We still don't know what happened to her mama, so it's like he might have did something messed up, to begin with. So it's just like maybe that's a part of what started it because he did something to Yamato's mom even before Odin. And then Odin was the wake up call, like, oh, my parent is trash, parent or not, this guy is a bad guy. So I like that because normally in stories we see characters fawn over parents who are terrible, just terrible human beings that didn't give them a fair shot at life. Like Yamato says in this chapter, what gives you the right to take my freedom? And I've talked about that before, right? And what gives you the right to take Wano's freedom? I like Kaido's answer because that's a very crazy answer. Like, and it's a true one, not necessarily in their situation. Obviously, we don't know what their situation is yet, but I would have to assume really there's no situation where this is okay. But he says, it's more complicated than that, basically. Like some stuff a parent would say to you, like it's just more complicated than that. Why I have no idea, but that's what he said. But him saying, "I thought you were Odin," and turning his back, in the anime, that's gonna be so dark. Cause he's gonna be seeing her crying, and he's just gonna give her the cold shoulder, like, "I thought you were Odin," and I'm out. You know what I mean? And just dip out on her. Um, Obviously, I'm dancing around the most obvious thing in this chapter, and that's my man, the Senpai of the Santoryu, hailing in from the south side of Shimosuke Village, and who his relative could be. Now, I'm going to talk about this part first because there's no way this dude is Zoro's pops, all right? Unless he doesn't die immediately in this backstory, because the age gap between Yamato and Zoro is like 7 years, ain't it? So that means he would have this guy, unless whoever Zoro Mama is, put Porticus de Roge, put her record to shame and held Zoro for 5 years. If that's what you're going to sit here and try to tell me, there's no way that this man is Zoro's father. I understand the Shimotsuki crest. I understand that part. His tattoo is purposely shown us to his tattoo. He looks exactly like Zoro, right? Initially in the silhouette, I thought his bandages were above his head and he slid one side down, like just not to creep out Yamato, I guess, or something like that. But you can see it's over his left eye, which is clearly we're being walked into something here. I just don't think it's his pops. It may be his uncle. It might even be his grandfather because the samurai did say towards the end, we never planned on laying down, and 20 years is too long for us to wait. So they might have been aged because he did look like an aged version of Zoro. But the design is insanely, I mean, you guys have seen family members like this before, right? Like, where someone in your family who lived 50 or 60 years before you were even born and they died before you were born, and y'all baby pictures look exactly the same, or something of that nature. Like this is a real thing. So the odds of him not, he's not designed like this on purpose, right? And then we know the situation with Ryuma. Now, is this Shimosuke Ushimara? Probably, right? Because we just got that name introduced to us, even though the image of him has been introduced earlier, right? But we have the bandage over the eye. And I don't know if we got a Kakashi situation, like with Kakashi's father, as far as him calling himself a disgrace. I'm nobody important. Like Oda is messing with us right now, just trolling us right now. Like that would be crazy if we actually found out he actually was just nobody important. he just he just the name only, but it does look like he has Shusui. And if he is Shimosuke Ushimara, we also know that he's a descendant of Ryuma. And we know, everybody knows now, especially within the past month or so in the community, if you don't know anything about the Zoro situation by now, you've done a good job of avoiding everything online, right? I don't know how you've done it, but that's what you've done. So we know what that is, and Yamato is so internally grateful for the food, right? That they provided for her, and not laying down and believing in her, and they did something that she never got with her own father. You know what I mean? And this is what I was talking about with her own thing is when she was falling asleep from delirium of hunger, she says, "One day I'll fight for Wano, and then I'll go out to sea, and then I'll get more stronger." This is why I liked it, because I think that's implying that there's other stuff that she wants to do, not just the survival of Wano part, but sailing the seas and seeing the world and doing something to do with the logbook. And there's probably something else, because she brought up being stronger. And I'm just like, she wants to fight here and then go get stronger. Why, I have no idea, but that's something that she wants, and I'm glad she wants something that's just related to her. That's all I wanted. I didn't mind anything that she was doing, obviously, because oppressions, you just can't have that. But I wanted her to be her for her, and not because what she thinks that's what Odin wants, or that's what is necessary for the story, of the people of Wano. And I understand putting the team on your back, but at some point, you do have to be you, whoever that is later, right? And do your thing. And Zoro fam, that looked like, with the tattoo, like I said, which is purposely visible, what was that attack that he used to break over the cave? Because we see he's a Nitoryu. That's what we see. The other two guys, there was 5 swords initially that Kaido threw down there. This guy had 2, and the Kabuto really looked like the Kabuto armor that Luffy wore when they met Tangoyama. But that guy, like I said, the beetle-looking guy, he had 1 sword, and the other guy had 1 sword that looked like he should be Denjiro's pops. Maybe that was just being artistic, but I don't know. Maybe there's a reason he cut the cave open like that, because it did give me an. I don't want to say what I want to say, because I don't need to say it in this video. Obviously, I'll be talking about this man in his own video because of my boy, the senpai of the Santa Ryu. But did he have sushi, and what was that attack that he used? Because tell me if off top, when you seen the way that cave was destroyed, did it remind you of something? And I'll leave that at that. And then we get right back to the situation with Kaido and this panel, the Thunder Bagua. After, like I said, Yamato talked about the freedom of Wano and her freedom, that Thunder Bagua with the Conqueror's Clash we was waiting on, we assumed it was already going down. Now we see it. It's nothing like seeing it. And still, Kaido looks like he's BSing, except for the fact that he's using 2 hands. To me, I don't know. I'm not buying Kaido's seriousness yet, until I see him like step on Yamato's neck or something, you know what I mean, and really do something, But I did like he said to her, there's no easy answers in this world, meaning that there's still more backstory and possibly God. Kaido's has to be rocks related in God's Valley. The man knows too much. So we got a lot to talk about within the next few days. I'm glad. I appreciate y'all time for now. I enjoyed everything about the chapter. It was straight. I wasn't overexcited. The second half was so much better than the first because of the world building, right? And everything that goes into that. So I'll see y'all somewhere today online. Thanks for stopping by. Have a safe weekend. Do y'all thing out there. It's Friday. And I'm going to leave it at that.